Hello, we're over here starting at the starter island on the ShrubSMP today because we did say we're going to spend most of our time down in the ancient city restoration project, but something has come to my attention that I have to address and take care of real quick back here on the starter island before we go back down to the ancient city, and that is my two little friends down there in their little enclosure, the Sniffers. Now, I have had those Sniffers down there for quite some time, and if we just quick hop down and take a look, they're cute little, oops, my face, they're cute little fellows. There's Rico, and if I remember right, we got Nico over there. Rico and Nico, let's just hop in on inside with them. So Rico and Nico have been over here. They have been here for quite some time, and they sniff around, and they've been kind of enjoying their little nondescript patch of grass here. There's no other flowers or grass that's growing, but just the flat grass, and they sniffed up some of the seeds that you would expect them to sniff. But what I've discovered over time is that since I've had them here, there's a little collection system underneath with the rails. I noticed that they stopped collecting them. They stopped sniffing them out, and even when I spend large periods of time over here. So today, while the owner of the ShrubSMP, Will, was live streaming, he was doing a little something funky with building up a sniffer enclosure of his own and was getting plenty of the seeds, you know, being sniffed up, but I noticed it was a little bit larger. And then I started to realize, wait a minute, my guys haven't really sniffed up anything in quite some time. So I looked into the wiki mechanics, and I learned that the enclosure space, or at least, you know, if you do have an enclosure, you need to have at least a 20 block available rate. Well, technically 21 for each sniffer, because they remember every block that they dig out a seed from, and they'll do that for up to 20 blocks. Now, I did not know this. I hadn't known this all this time, and until I looked it up that I figured it out and realized that even though this enclosure is a little more than 20 blocks and you'd expect them to continue sniffing, I stayed in here for quite some time off camera. Nothing was really happening. And then I kind of realized, because there's two of them, they probably need, you know, at least 40. I'm not sure if that's even correct, but what we're going to do today as a first quick little project before we go back to the ancient city is we're going to address the problem here. We have plenty of room off behind the enclosure here. There is a decent amount of space right underneath the roller coaster where we can just extend this out a little bit, just right through here, and have plenty of extra space. So at the very least, and the very minimum, they'll be able to sniff up much more of the ancient seeds that they do, and hopefully with the game mechanics as I now understand them, they'll be able to then forget some of the original ones that they sniffed up and be able to come back and do that again, and so on and so forth. And then we will have plenty more. I mean, we have a decent amount down here now, like we said, but I'm really looking for a lot more torchflower seeds, and that's going to become important because we are going to be using the torchflowers down in the ancient city restoration project. So let's go grab some materials. We'll build this thing out and give these guys just a little bit more room to sniff out those ancient seeds. Alright, all we need to do now is just add a few glow berries to the back to make sure that there's plenty of light back here and it matches the front, and we can be on our way. So let's just go ahead, and all you need to do is just add them and add some bone meal. These two aren't going to be long enough. We're going to have to wait till they grow a little bit, but there you go, all finished. We got the light, we got the extra room, we have everything we need to let these guys start collecting way more of the ancient seeds so that I can make my torch flowers and pitcher pods so that we can use them in the ancient city restoration project. But for now, it's time to leave these guys behind so that we can head on down to the ancient city and start adding more detail to that project. Okay, down here in the city, I was poking around looking for just kind of a decent place to get started, and right here behind me we have two of the more basic, simple structures that are typically spread throughout ancient cities. And they're these little altar type things that you can see down on the ground on the floor behind me here. So I thought maybe we could just bring down a villager in one and make like a little vending stand, and we're going to turn them into a farmer. And with any little farmer, he's going to need a place to gather his goods and produce them. So I think he's going to be a potato farmer, and the potato field is going to be on the one next to it. So that's going to be the plan and how we're going to get started, and we're going to go ahead and hop on down to the first little structure where we will go ahead and convert this thing into a little stall where our first inhabitant will be working down here and selling their goods, being like a little vendor area, as we look to bring that vision to life here in this little area and get ourselves a little farmer set up down here. But now it's time to get started building, and I bought a shulker box full of a handful of materials that we're going to use for this build, and let's get started and see what we can come up with. Alright, I've pretty much created the basic structure now, and all we have to do is put a couple final details in. We'll put a little melon here, glistening melon. Even though he may be selling potatoes, that doesn't mean he doesn't have any special treats up his sleeve. And on top of that, we're going to go ahead and throw, just to hide the dirt a little, that warped netherwood teal color that's going to continue to be the main theme down here to offset these dark grays. But with that all built up, now that we have our little vendor stall, all that's missing is our villager. So we're going to have to bring one down from the breeder just over yonder and just get a little track going and drop them right in here in a minecart. We'll do that real quick. And before I do that, I want to just kind of expose, we're just going to quick show a little another mechanical trick, Minecraft mechanics. Oops, I've already broken the secret. So these are honey blocks underneath that are covered by carpet. And one of the little Minecraft mechanic tricks, when you have a villager, or any mob for that matter, that is standing on top of these honey blocks, honey, sticky, right? So, and that's exactly what the mechanics do, is even though the adjacent blocks here are 1 block tall, typically a villager will be able to hop up on there and run away. As you can see, I just tried to hop up, and even I can't do it. That's the mechanics of the honey block, which allows you to kind of help keep the villagers in place. It does help because there are other times where you kind of have to, in the past, we would have to kind of really lock these guys in and make sure that there's too high or at least another slab up there. And it kind of takes away from the effect that you might be looking to gather, because eye lines and sight lines will be all blocked off by like these extra high blocks that don't really need to be there. So it's a cool little trick to be able to kind of minimize the amount of height if you want to keep a mob in place without them from escaping. So with that said, and that in place, another little Minecraft mechanical trick that I seem to be adding to every one of my little builds. But regardless, it's time to get this guy in place, and we're going to go ahead and do that right now. Alright, I've got my rail in place all the way back from the villager breeder, and no villager related video would be complete without the angst, the anxiousness, and the nervousness of transporting a villager. Now, there's really no reason to suspect that anything would go wrong here, but that's part of the fun of doing it. I still feel like, I don't know, like, I mean, he's supposed to drop off right at the end there, right behind me. He should drop right into his little pit, and then I'm going to whack the minecart that he's going to be transported over in. The only thing that may go wrong, and the honey should actually protect against this, I'm hoping, is that he would hop out. Sometimes when you exit a villager from a minecart or a boat, they kind of like jump. And hopefully the honey stops that, but if he jumps, he's going to be running around here, and that'll make for some fun. But, you know, like I said, it wouldn't be a video without the possibility of that happening. So let's go fly over there and get ready to release our next villager, who will become the farmer down here in their little stall, and then we'll move on to complete the next build just alongside it, the potato field. But here we go. So which one of these is going to be the lucky guy? I think there's 2 of them in there, maybe 2. Yeah, definitely 2. All we got to do is flick the lever, and we're going to follow him on down. So there's the lever, there he goes, and off he goes. And right down the thing, I already can tell that I may have trouble getting him up. Okay, he got up. I thought I was going to have to push him. That would have been funny if he came back the other direction. Okay, there he goes. He's getting ahead of me a little bit, but he's now running down the end and around the corner. And now for the moment of truth, will he or will he not land directly in? He lands directly in. Oh, look at that. He picked up the farmer trade immediately. What happened there is he saw the composter, picked up his job, and now he's a farmer. Now, what we need to do is we're going to get rid of the end of this so that he can't just... And what we do is we turn on the hitboxes, and we have our great axe. We have our little axe. The goal here is to whack. Now, I don't know if it makes a difference, but I'm going to whack the left side of that minecart and hope that he doesn't jump up onto the rail there, the wall. Boom, he morphed up to the side. All right, perfect. Now, I think the risk there is that he might have hopped forward, and then if he would have gone up here, he would have been, and he would have gone running around up here, and it would have been, the chase would have been on, because I don't even have a boat in my inventory. I come so ill-prepared for these things, as much as I know that they're going to cause me angst. But here he is. He's in place. All right, so let's celebrate the victory. We have him in place. We can clean up the rail, and we have everything done. I think we're done. And we are done, and he looks like he's happy. I mean, you're going to be happy, dude, because you're going to be down here. You're kind of stuck with that honey. There's no chance of you getting out. But the good news is there are going to be people visiting you. Oh, and look, he has potatoes, too, because how perfect. We're going to turn this into a potato farm now for this guy to be able to work in. So let's hop on over to this side and decide how we're going to convert this thing into a little potato field with an automatic collection system. It's going to be fun. Okay, now that we have the build complete, there's just one little more addition to add, and at least we're going to do it temporarily today. There's a little more that I want to do here that I have to do some redstone research for to understand exactly how to pull it off. But what we're going to do for the time being is we got to fill up those dispensers with water, and we can do that right now because I got a bunch of water buckets here. 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. We're going to need a little bit of redstone, so I bought some iron blocks to distinguish where the redstone's going to go. We got the redstone, and we just have a little spruce button. Now, where this goes is around back. What we need to do is create a little mechanism to make these dispensers work. So first, we're going to go into each one and put a water bucket right in the middle of each. And that is going to be able to sweep away the crops when they fully grow. And we'll demonstrate that before this episode's out. But for the time being, again, we just have to fill them all up, which we're doing now. And then add the iron blocks to the back of each dispenser. And this is going to be the power source for each one. And then now that that's in place, we need a little bit of redstone on top of each one of them. And then right at the end, we'll have a button to activate that redstone, just again as a temporary thing while we explain what we want to try to do here. So with the redstone line in place, we can add a button just to the end. And now to demonstrate what that will do is when I push this button, when I push it, it'll activate the redstone on top, and the redstone will power this block, which adjacently will power those dispensers. When the dispensers are powered at a certain interval, it has to have a slight delay to it so that it's long enough to activate them, which will pour out the water bucket. So these little redstone devices will pour out the water bucket that's inside of them. And if you get the timing just right, they will hold it in place and not retract it immediately. What I mean by that is the water will spread out. It will push all of these crops right to the end where they will flow into these hoppers. They'll be collected, and then there'll be nothing but empty farmland here. Now, unfortunately, there is no way to automatically replant the crops. We'll say that the villager comes over every so often and replants them. Really, it's going to be me just doing that, but that's part of the lore of the world, and that's what this is going to be all about. But the trick of the redstone is then right after that is if I go back and press the button again, the timing will then allow it to retract the water, and the water will then be pulled back. The water source blocks that's going to be right in front of each one of these dispensers will pull back. It'll suck back in and fill the bucket again, and it will look like this instead of an empty bucket. And the water will then dry up and go all the way back and allow the farmland to be replanted, which, like I said, I'll be doing the replanting around here, but we'll just say it's this guy who tends his field so that he can stock up his shop and be able to trade with some of the other inhabitants down here. I've been trading with him. What I didn't realize is that because a number of days went by before I traded, he did switch up his trades a little bit. I waited till he had the potato as his primary trade because, after all, he's a potato farmer, and started to do some trades with him, and then now we have an active permanent farmer. But for now, it's time to wrap things up for today. We got 3 nice little projects done. There was the Sniffer habitat expansion so that we can collect more of those ancient seeds, especially the torchflower seeds that we expect to use a lot more of down here in the future. And we started converting some of these ancient city structures, including the farmer's vendor stall here with his potato farm just alongside. Things are really gearing up down here, and there are so many structures to build out in this area. And as always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by, and we will see you in the next episode.